I saw that this position was open. Was actually my friend Paul Grabert who told me that, and I said, well, this is a great place to go. And some of the reasons I thought about coming here was the seminary has a PhD program, which can be very good for me to experience that. The seminary has, this position has an enormous reputation also in the liturgical field and in the church, and the Lutheran church too, because here we had masters of the field. So I will just mention some of the last ones, so Melinda Quivik and Dirk Lang, and also Professor Gordon Lathrop, who's here for more than 25 years. I mean, this position was very respected. So in some ways, I would not need to scream that liturgy is important, because I do believe that if the church wants to renew itself, wants to continue, wants to expand, it has to go through the worship. And so I saw that here would be a possibility for me to stretch myself also in terms of the liturgical field. And then but of course there was this thing. So it's a Lutheran seminary. So what would a Presbyterian pastor do in